So, and this is when we get into the map that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That it shows things.
Like things come up on the map that don't really show in...
That aren't real.
Yeah.
Right. So, oh yeah, even the cop. Remember the cop looked up?
Oh yeah.
What was that? A GPS, his phone.
Yeah,
his phone.
iPhone Find Me or whatever it is.
That Wayne had.
Yeah, and Wayne had the phone in the car, so
they figured they could find him.
The main FBI agent that's working with them, she's trying to figure it all out. And she finds out on the map.
Hutter, that's right.
Hutter. Yeah, and she finds Christmas Land on the map.
Yeah, and she's like, iPhone. What am I looking at here?
It might be at the very beginning. Excuse me.
The map itself?
Yeah.
Well, I know that they showed it in my part when she found it.
Oh, maybe.
And that's what I was looking at.
I don't remember that, though.
Maybe you don't have it in your book. Well, anyway... Yeah,
I know that the map is.
So she finds this map that is nothing like a map. I mean, it's the United States, but it's not the United States that we know.
And it shows. Remember,
it's shaped weird.
I said that it shows Pennywise Circus.
It does.
Oh, there's a little jab at Stephen King at his dad.
Something about Maine, Derry, Salem's Lot.
I don't know if it shows anything else.
No?
I thought that it did, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's just
darn it,
Pennywise
I can't
Circus.
find it. I wish I could find it right away. I should have bookmarked it because it was a cool little map that you're like, whoa, what the heck? But, yeah. So they do that, and so that was kind of the first, I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell is this?
For the cop to, I don't know.
So when they, excuse me, when the cops do come, and when the FBI agent comes and starts getting into all this stuff, she already knows. She's been, obviously she's an FBI agent, but she already knows everything about Charlie Manx and everything that's happened with him and how when he was stolen out of the, what do they call it, out of the morgue, the bone mallet was taken also. Mm-hmm. So when she explains this bone mallet to the FBI agent, when Vic explains it, the FBI agent is like, she wouldn't have known that because we didn't tell
nobody
anyone
knew
about
that mallet was taken.
Yeah,
right.
So all these little things that are like, okay, well, that's weird. There's no way that this is a possibility. So Vic's trying to explain the impossible, and this agent is kind of like, okay, well, I can see that you're explaining. She's actually, trying to level, to level with her because she doesn't know how it's possible, but something weird is happening. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, here's the map.
I don't know if
you can see that it's nothing like the U.S. that we know.
You can't read that. I don't know if you can read this, but it's very much teeny tiny. But as you can see in the book, it even says Wayne's iPhone locating. So when they're pulling this map up, they're pulling it up off the phone. And that's coming from his phone because his phone is in the car driving to the Inscape of Christmas Land.
Yes.
So, and they're on St. Nick Parkway. I thought that was funny.
Yes. Yeah, I thought so too. So fast forward, Lou shows up at the cabin and
they follow him. They know that he
shows up at the cabin where Vic is.
Okay.
And, and then the cops are talking to them, and now the cops think that both of them have something to do with Wayne's disappearance. And long story short, Vic jumps out the window and takes off on the bike because Lou had been fixing it up in the last few hours from what broke.
Yeah. So she tells him what happened with the bike. He goes and fixes it while she's resting in the room by herself. He tells her that it's working, it's running, and she takes off.
Well, he kind of tells her secretly, too.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So that the cops didn't know what he was telling her. But they get to the point where they're like, okay, you've had something to do with this. We're going to have to arrest you.
Yeah.
And so she escapes and ends up going into the Shorter Way Bridge.
To see Maggie.
Yes.
Oh, I love Maggie.
Yeah, and that's what started the cops not believing her because she called Maggie.
Yeah.
While they were at the cabin.
She called Maggie, and the cops heard the conversation. They obviously were tapping the phone.
They were tapping the phone, yeah.
And heard Maggie talking about where Charlie Manx is. This is what Charlie Manx is on his way. He's going, he's running, whatever. And they're like, what is going on?
How do you know that your son's okay? And who are you talking to? Yeah. So she escapes to Maggie. And Maggie gives her, I was going to say some rest, but...
She does. And Maggie gives her some pills to kind of knock her ass out because she got really hurt when all that stuff was happening. While Charlie Manx was... she got beat with this bone mallet, even though she was wearing this steel-plated vest. It still hurt her. She got shot at. She's completely just, I'm sure, emotionally
drained. From a motorcycle and freaking out because Charlie's got her son.
Yep. And it kind of flips back and forth, too, between what's happening with Wayne and then what's happening with Vic and all the angles.
It does, because there's some very interesting things happening with Wayne.
Yeah, that car is weird.
It is very weird.
Basically is sucking the life out of him, and he doesn't even know it.
He's losing his teeth.
And keeping them in his pocket.
Yeah, and he's having strange thoughts and visions.
Yeah, his dead grandma. His grandma comes to visit him and tells him to think in reverse because the Wraith is moving so quickly forward that in order to stop this process of him basically changing, or being sucked dry of life, that in order to, if you think in reverse, then it kind of slows down the time, so it kind of mixes up whatever the Wraith's trying to do to him. So she's trying to explain this to him, but he's trying to do this. It's kind of like he's split brain.
Exactly, that's what I think too.
Yeah, he's trying to hold it back hold himself together as much as he can hold himself together, but the Wraith is kind of taking his life away.
And he's also trying to hide that from Charlie because he's aware that Charlie is aware that something else is going on. Yeah. But he can't see his dead grandma. I feel like Wayne has an ability.
Yeah, it's something. He
has some kind of an ability, and you don't really get to find out what that is in this book, but he sees his dead grandma. So, and Charlie asks him a couple times, who are you talking to? And he's trying to hide that. Yeah. But at the same time, his mind is being changed, and it's like he's foggy, and he can't really think straight.
He's really taking, like, all of his innocence. It's basically... taking away all of his ability to think. He is only being kept as youth, I guess. It's like his, he's basically giving him only innocence back. So he can't make adult decisions without, with understanding consequences, I guess. Everything is just a funny game. Yeah, there's no
it's all fun. It's all games. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's sucking the life out of him, but not really because they're still alive. They just have...
They have their child innocence, and that's it.
They're empty vessels of children.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old. But
let's have fun.
Yeah, an adult. And they don't really understand. They think that the funny things, he talks about having a butterfly come in the window and tearing the wings off and the legs off of the butterfly just because he wanted to see what it would do. And then he laughs about it because he's like, haha, that was a fun game. And then he's like, oh, what do I do with this now? There's a dead butterfly.
Well, and then
he kind of feels bad about it.
Kind of sickened that he had pulled the wings and legs off. And it was kind of like he didn't realize he was doing it. Yeah. And then he saw it was done and he was like, oh, why did I do that? But at the same time, that was fun. He would laugh at it and then be
disgusted
that he was laughing about it.
Yeah.
There was some very interesting changes happening to him and some very interesting visions that he was having along the way.
And I think that Charlie was understanding that something was happening but not really knowing what, because every time Wayne would go through one of these phases where he's realizing that something's up, he needs to try to stop whatever's happening with this car, Charlie would call him out on it, and then he'd be like, ha ha ha, funny, nothing's happening.
Nothing.
Yeah. But it wasn't like, nothing, like guilty. It was more like, haha, that was fun. Now what's next? Because he wasn't really understanding either. He was back and forth. Mm-hmm. The car took his phone. He was trying to hide his phone, and the car took his phone away from him, which is how Charlie took the phone.
Apparently there was a drawer under the seat.
Like a hidden drawer.
In the back. And that's where he put the phone. Well, it's in the car. So the car took it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Charlie ended up having it. One important thing that we have to touch on about this drawer is that he would open the drawer and the phone would be there, and he would close it, and he'd open it again and it'd be gone. And then he'd open it, he'd close it.
That was with other things. And it was like ornaments and stuff.
Yeah, he'd open it again and there was something else in there. And he picked an ornament that he liked that was a crescent moon.
A crescent moon, yeah.
And
kept this ornament basically through the whole ride.
Yeah, and Charlie said something at one point about, I see that you've chosen your
ornament to hang on the tree. Well, at the sleigh house, they have the tree with all the ornaments. Right. So that was basically
remember we said all the angels hanging from the trees and ornaments and that, and yeah. So, and that's one of the things too. I thought it was very interesting that they had to go back to the sleigh house
in order to get to
Christmas Land.
I think that was kind of your transition phase. It was basically like, oh, you've been riding in the car for this long, and we've sucked out so much juice out of you that now we're ready to be on the way to Christmas Land.
So now we're at the sleigh house and let's go.
Yeah.
And so while that's all happening, Vic is at Maggie's at the library in Iowa.
By the way, I did look it up. Iowa is not a place.
Not a real place.
Not by Cedar Rapids, because what did I tell you though? I told you something about the Colorado, but yeah, anyways, I had to look it up because it's so close to where we are. I'm like, there's no way there's a Iowa. There's not.
And that's what we do. That's what we do.
Darn it. They did say Cedar Rapids, though, and Cedar Rapids is a real place in Iowa.
The thing that has happened is when she came to visit Vic, previously...
Vic went to visit Maggie.
No, when Maggie went to visit Vic previously, she was nothing like Vic had met her when she was younger. She was a drug addict. She was filthy. She was strung out. Yeah.
She looked homeless. She smelled bad. I mean, all the things that you can think of that is
someone living on the street and a drug addict.
Street, yeah.
And so when she gets back to here in this time, it has been flooded. It was like how Cedar Rapids gets flooded by the Cedar River when we have so much water.
But we get so much water living right by the Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. So
we flood all the time.
It was flooded out, and the library had been flooded out, and everything was ruined, and then there was a fire because of the flood. So this whole town was pretty much in shambles now, and the library was no longer the library.
Usable.
It was
a collapsing building with old books and smelly water that
But apparently Maggie was still living in it, kind of. And that's where she took
anywhere to go. She didn't have a home. She didn't have a family. She had her books and she had the library, so she stuck to that.
And she was a real individualist, independent. She was a very unique
character. I can't think of words either.
Me either, but she was. So, that was fitting that she was still there. So she was trying to help Vic get some rest. And while that was happening, Charlie showed up.
Yeah. So Vic and
he found
Maggie
out about her.
Kind of pass out together. Well, Maggie has come to realize that her Scrabble tiles that tell her whatever don't work unless she harms herself in some way, shape, or form. Basically, she's like burning herself with cigarettes, all kinds of stuff, harming herself in many ways just to get her Scrabble tiles to tell her what's going on. Well, when the Scrabble tiles come out and she realizes what's happening, it's already kind of too late. So Vic's still sleeping. Maggie wakes up, looks at the Scrabble tiles to figure out what's going on with Vic and the kid and all the things, and
realizes that
Charlie's there.
Charlie's here.
Charlie isn't the first one that she sees. She hears a kid running around, which ends up being Wayne, and he's pouring gasoline all through these halls as he's running
because he thinks it's fun.
Yeah, it's a game.
It's a game.
It's a game. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that Maggie's there. He doesn't know what's happening. This is
basically know his mom's there.
His his character is being sucked away by the wraith already. So he's
So and you know what? Something dawned on me at this point that she has to hurt herself, and possibly that's where the drugs came in, because she has to lose something, and that's what you learn, that you have to lose something in order to use these abilities and go to your inscapes. And that's what was happening to Vic with her mind.
Her head was hurting. Her eye was...
Why she became an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Why she couldn't take to hear these things. And I realized that that's why Charlie takes the kids, because it would take it from him if he didn't have something else for it to be taken from.
Yeah,
so
but
he uses them so he doesn't have to give anything from himself, and he benefits from it too because
the wraith heals
this
him
whole time. He's
and
healing.
He gets younger, and they explain his age when they go see Maggie. Maggie's like, "Oh, he looks like he's 35 years old now instead of 90." When he was old and haggard, so he's changing. He's becoming younger.
And Wayne does explain that too. That every time they stop, he seems to be healed more,
happier,
his injuries
glowing, and because he gets shot. When all those bullets, Bing shoots him in the ear. Takes a chunk of his ear off. We didn't touch on that.
Bing accidentally shoots him in the ear. He was supposed to be shooting Vic.
Bing gets in a lot of trouble too. He no longer, Charlie Manx drops him off and does not want anything to do with Bing anymore.
Charlie at the sleep house? Is that what it is?
The House of Sleep.
House of Sleep. That's Bing's house.
Yep. Bing gets to stay home because Charlie Manx doesn't want him along anymore. Charlie Manx basically doesn't tell him this. He takes him back to the House of Sleep, and Bing goes in to get all of his stuff because he's ready to go to Christmas
They rest up. Bing makes food. Yeah. And then they're getting ready to leave. And
Charlie leaves him.
So, literally drives off as Bing is trying to hang on to the door to get in because the car won't let him in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's, begging. He wants to come. Well, he shot Charlie Manx in the ear, so Charlie's pissed, and he's like, no, you're not coming to Christmas Land. You're staying here. So when all this is happening, we're back at the library, and Charlie doesn't have Bing. He has just Wayne. Wayne is running through the halls of the library. Maggie is pissed because somebody's coming in to ruin the library. What's going on? She's chasing him around. And when she chases him outside, he locks the door so she can't get back in, or kicks the rock so that it's not held open anymore. And she sees the headlights. Yeah, she sees the wraith.
The wraith.
Yeah, in the middle of the parking lot too. So it's not like she can run easily to get away from it.
It's kind of like a standoff, is what I thought.
Yeah. So she sees it. She's in the middle. Yeah, in the middle of the parking lot, and then the lights come on the car. And she's like, "Fuck."
She's like, "Okay, I'm in trouble."
Yeah.
But she's like, "All right, fine, let's do this."
So he gets out and he hits her with a car. He gets out and starts to. He goes up to
tease her,
torture her, tease her. He doesn't know that Vic is there.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's a tense time too, because you're like, oh my god, no, oh my god,
she's in there
sleeping. Get Wayne. Yeah, she's still sleeping.
And there's gasoline poured all through the library, and he is outside hitting Maggie and basically killing her.
Yeah. So it ends up that I don't remember specific.
Her Scrabble pieces fall out, and then she laughs at him because she's spitting up blood at this point, and he's killing her, and she laughs at him, and the
so
Scrabble
the wraith
pieces
kind of drives alongside of her, and I feel like it's like polo, that he takes the hammer and goes whack and hits her as the car hits her.
Yeah.
So he kind of smashes her head in, and that's when the Scrabble tiles go.
And she laughs because they spell out triumph. So that's...
Which is the bike.
Yep, that's the bike. So she's like, haha, she's like, you might be killing me, but obviously triumph wins.
Yes.
So that's her prediction of the future. And she laughs. So she ends up dying.
Yep, she dies, but he doesn't know Vic's there, so he takes off after this.
And he leaves, and
then
cops
Vic wakes up.
The cops are there.
Oh, yeah. Somebody calls the cops.
I think the cops are called because of the whole fiasco outside. They found a dead girl outside. The cops are called, and they're explaining the dead girl. They're coming walking through the library, which wakes up Vic.
And there was a fish tank in Maggie's office that faced both the library and her office, and Vic was able to see the cops coming through this fish tank, and she takes off.
Yeah, she does have a little confrontation, I guess, with the cops. So she runs away from them, and she...
Get back here!
She asks them what color the girl's hair is that's dead, because she can hear the radio go off that there's a girl dead outside, and she figures out that Maggie's dead. And so she goes back to her house, right? No.
She goes to the House of Sleep.
Oh, yeah.
She goes to the church.
That's okay.
Oh, God, that part. Oh, God, that part. That part is so gross and so awesome.
Yeah.
She goes to the church, and she thinks, well, she goes to the House of Sleep, but Bing lives across the street from this church that he used to go to and got pissed off while he was in it one time and burned it down. So this church is a big burned down church now. And on the front, what does it say on the church? You
only
know how there's
devils
always
here. No angels left, only devils here.
Yeah,
Something
on the
like
church
that.
sign, yes. That's what it says out front of it. But she thinks that maybe the wraith is in this shed that's behind the church. And
she parks her bike out behind the shed.
So when she goes into the shorter way, there's always an arrow with words that tell her this is the way you're going.
Yeah.
And it's kind of her mind, so she knows where she's trying to go, but it kind of points her that this is where you're going.
Yeah.
And it said
house
of sleep.
Yes.
So she thought the church was the house of sleep. And then she didn't find anybody in the shed. And she sees Bing working in his yard across the street and has no idea who he is. He's got a hat on. He's gardening. He doesn't look like who he was when he attacked her
with the gas mask on.
Right. So she doesn't realize who he is. And he's like, hey, get away from there. And she says, I'm looking for this. Maybe you've seen them. And he's like, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you can come in and use my phone.
Yeah, do you need to use my phone?
Yeah.
So he invites her in.
I thought that was weird, too, because my thought was with Vic, she'd be like, hell no, I don't want to use your phone. I don't want to use anyone's phone.
Yeah, I don't like the phone thing. I think she's just so focused on finding Wayne that she was like, cool, somebody's helping me in the middle of fucking nowhere. That's great.
But around this time, too, she kind of is realizing that she can't find Wayne because her Inscape only takes her to points that are
still.
Yes.
She can't.
That are not moving.
Get to the Wraith because it's constantly in motion.
Yes.
And Charlie figures this out too.
Yeah.
Because he goes to breakfast.
Yeah, like a pancake.
Yeah, pancake house something. To get Wayne some food and goes in there and immediately leaves because he sees on the news that Maggie's dead and they, I think, are looking for Vic.
A girl that they saw a girl they were trying to find.
Yeah, so and he's like, well, shit, she's on the move. So he figures out if he's on the move, then she can't get to where he is. I think he
already knows that she has the Shortaway Bridge because he saw it earlier on in the book. So he knows that she's got something like he's got to travel further in a smaller amount of time.
And this also, he promises Wayne that Wayne can call his mom. So he lets Wayne call his mom.
Because he gets Wayne's phone and then he calls her and lets Wayne talk to her.
Yeah, but this is after the House of Sleep, though, because series of events. So she gets to the House of Sleep. Basically, long story short, she gets tricked to go in there with Bing. Bing starts trying to gas mask her, pushes her down the stairs, gets her downstairs so that he can have his way with her.
And in this basement,
there's tarps that are covering
and garbage bags.
Yeah, and it smells
full
awful.
Of bodies.
Yeah.
He did what he wanted with these people, and he didn't bury them. He just piled them up in his basement.
Yeah, basically takes them apart and.
And he gets her into this. I think it's like a bomb shelter.
Yeah, that's what it really is explained like that because the door to it is like a big sealed steel door that
like a bank vault. Almost.
Yeah. So it is very weird. I was thinking that there was like dirt floors or something, like it wasn't a finished basement. Not that he was digging in it, but it was more like
it was unfinished.
Earthy.
Yeah. Like old houses have part of their basement not finished, dug out yet. Yeah. I agree with that. And so he's obviously got her where he wants her. He's wearing his mask and feeding her
like air. The air is coming out of a tube. He's like
tank. He's got
holding the tank and pouring like putting it in her tube into her face. Well, she takes out a lighter and flicks the lighter and it all explodes.
Yeah, and it blows Bing's body all over the place.
Yeah, like when she wakes up, she sees him torn in half and his insides just around the floor. So I was like, yes.
But it also knocks her out.
Yeah, so she's
thinking she's out for
a couple hours.
She's thinking though that it's been 15 minutes, half an hour or so, but it's been more like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
and she's like, oh shit. Yeah, I gotta go
because she's not really. Obviously, that is she was being fed this gas air. Yeah, this air, and so she's not altogether when she blows up too, obviously the blow blows Bing back, but he's still got the open valve, so it just fucking,
and he's got the tank in his
everything on
hand.
fire.
So the tank is, you know, a tank of laughing gas basically, and it hits him and it frickin' shreds him. But she's
it
kind of
smashes
like
him into the door. That's
by
why
a bed
they talk about a steel door
that is protecting her. She's kind of like on the floor under something, and it seems to protect her. She is pretty tore up.
Yeah.
Though.
So she was already torn up
Yeah.
when she went to Maggie's, and then she goes to Bing's and explodes the fucking house. And when she's finally able to crawl around, she's realizing that she's still loopy, so the floor's like weaving and waving, and she finds a body under the tarp, which I don't think we really touched on too much, but when Charlie was in the...
we did talk about when
we talked about when
the
he
wraith
was
being fixed up by another guy.
The person that fixed up the wraith was taking his daughter on a ride with it when it wasn't quite finished, and Charlie wasn't really active yet. And when Charlie starts coming alive in the morgue is when the car is driving basically to get Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie.
So this dude fixes this car up. He buys it for really cheap after Charlie went into jail and then the hospital.
Yeah, well, it wasn't running.
And he fixed it up, and he was putting the engine back into it. And once he put a new engine in it, it was about the same time that Charlie left the morgue. Yeah. So the wraith came back to life, and it took this dude.
Yeah, it took the dude with him,
and
with the car.
The dude ended up being in Bing's hands.
Yeah. So that is the body that she finds, and she finds a note on the body
in his mouth. He had written a note and put it in his mouth because he knew Bing was going to kill him.
Yep.
And it explained who he was.
That Charlie Mays
what happened
took
and
him,
who took him, yes.
And it was a letter to his daughter. And then, so,
does
Vic end up... I know it. Does Vic end up getting caught?
No.
I don't remember how she goes back to the... She calls the FBI agent. She calls Hutter.
She says...
Okay, she calls
check
Lou.
Here, Iowa.
Yeah.
There's a girl that was just dead, and I was there.
Yeah. So
and she's like, what?
They're time framing it because they...
How did you get there?
Yeah.
And now she's here because she called from Bing's house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So she ends up, after she finds that body, she crawls up the stairs, gets to the phone. She calls Lou. She calls the FBI agent, tells Lou what's happening. Lou's in custody at this point.
Yeah, because think
he's in the hospital because he had another heart attack.
He had another episode. That's right. So he went to the hospital.
Whatever, yeah. So he's in the hospital, and he ends up running out of the hospital to get away because he needs to go find Vic's dad.
Well, he thinks that they're not paying attention and he can leave because Vic tells him a code that means that she's going to go to her dad's house because he has explosives.
Yeah.
So he knows the code, so he takes off from the hospital. Well, Detective Hutter,
one of her officers, is tracking him.
Yeah, but she's smarter than that. She realizes that he's going to do something, and so she wants to follow him. And so she kind of lets him do this. Even though his health is terrible.
Yeah, but he's the one he's the only person that's going to be able to help Vic, and he's going to do everything in his power to help Vic. And they want to figure out what's going on with Vic and where Wayne is.
And they want to find Wayne, yeah.
So they're basically letting him go about...
So much!
We would have had more of this be in the last one, but the last one got cut off a little too short.
Yeah. So you missed some of it. I mean, but we're doing the best we can here.
Yeah. So basically, she runs everybody to catch up on the story, and
she figures out that she has to go back to the sleigh house. That's where she's going to find Charlie. And so first, though, she goes to her dad's. She does go to her dad's.
She meets Lou at her dad's, yes.
From the House of Sleep, she gets her bike, and actually the cops are coming because she calls the cops, too, because there's bodies. So she calls them and she's like, there's bodies. This is where you're coming.
And they're super fast. They know already. They're like, because they were chimed in by the FBI.
Yeah.
So they're
detectives let them know.
They're immediate. They're like, she gets off the phone and she can hear sirens. So she's like, I gotta go.
So she runs over to her bike and goes to her dad's.
Her dad and her, through this, we haven't really touched on anything because they don't have a relationship.
Yeah,
she
it's very
refuses
estranged
to talk to him and doesn't want him to have anything to do with Wayne. But Lou has kept in contact with him here and there because he wanted Wayne to be able to have his grandfather. Yeah.
Right.
So,
I forgot about that.
So Lou does know her dad. I don't remember her dad's name.
I don't either. But didn't write that down. But they have a relationship. So Lou shows up there, no problem.
Tells him what Vic needs so that by the time she gets there, she can take everything and go. So Dad loads her up with explosives, a bunch of tiny explosives that need to be timed.
Quite honestly, they're made out of shit.
Yeah,
they are. They're made out of manure.
Yep.
With what did he say? Radio Shack timers.
Yeah.
Because it's the best he could do in a short notice.
Yep.
And so her plan obviously is to take these explosives. What I'm thinking is to Christmas Land.
Yeah.
But I thought, honestly, this whole time I'm kind of got this in my mind because it was touched on. If you destroy the Wraith, you destroy Charlie. Mm-hmm. And all I kept thinking this whole time is all she has to do is try to get one in the Wraith. Throw a bomb in the Wraith, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well,
but that's where Wayne is.
Right. Well, get Wayne out of the car first.
Yeah.
But, you have the whole problem of the car has its own power and it doesn't just let him go.
Right.
Yeah, so she gets this. Well, the detectives
before she ends up talking to Wayne.
Out.
She ends up talking to Wayne while Wayne's in the car.
Oh yeah, I forget that. When they go to the pancake house.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah. Charlie calls her and says, "Oh,
this is before Maggie
when he sees,"
because he tried to warn his mom about Maggie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And Charlie hangs up the phone.
Yeah. And so then Charlie just discovered that she had to have a stationary spot to get to.
Yeah.
Because he says, "So, you can't find us because we're moving."
Yeah.
And yes, and he does let Wayne talk to her, and Wayne says, "We're going to see," and Charlie takes the phone away.
Yeah.
And I thought, how didn't she get that? How didn't she get that from her son?
Because he was already all like
no, but why didn't she get it herself? I'm reading through the book, so I know what's happening, but why didn't she realize that he was talking about we're going to see? Who else would they be going to see? Who would Charlie think, they have to take care of? In my mind, but
yeah, but I don't think he makes it be so known that they're going to see a person.
Okay, that's true. We're going to see. You're right. I think it's because I was reading it and I knew, so I'm like, well, how come she doesn't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, you have to read the book.
I feel
it's
like
so good.
We are at the ending point of, I don't know how much further we should go.
I feel like, we never talk about the ending.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
Oh, wait,
okay,
is that the one? That's the thing. The saying on the when angels fall, the children go home. Wait, that wasn't. That was here at library. I thought that was.
So they meet. Vic and Lou meet at Vic's dad's house. They get these explosives. They have in this argument. Dad wants to go with to help. Lou wants to go with to help. They want to save Wayne. She's like, nobody's going with me. I need somebody here that can take care of him if I don't make it back.
The FBI shows up.
And the FBI is staking the place out. So this Hutter, she's smart.
She's real smart.
And she's realizing there's no lights on in the house except at the back of the house. And all of a sudden the back of the house lights went out. And why would Lou and Vic's dad turn the lights out and talk?
Yeah, she doesn't know that Vic is there. She's there in the assumption that
she knows Lou's there.
Lou is
because they followed him.
Going to meet somebody. They figured out that it's Vic's dad.
Yes. So the lights are out and they decide they're going to walk around the back of the house, but it's really swampy. It's really woody and swampy and they have some problems and they end up getting around to the back of the house when Vic is coming out to leave.
Yeah. And she's got this bag of explosives right now. She's got one track mind. She's going to her bike. She's getting her kid.
And Lou has the triggers, or vice versa. She has the triggers, and Lou has the bags of explosives.
And they're going together because they had already come. Well,
she's telling Lou he's not going, but he's adamant he's going, and he won't let her have the bag. And then the detective stop. Put your hands up.
So the detective goes to shoot Vic. And there is more than just the detective pointing a gun. There's also another one of the police officers.
There's like 3 officers.
And Lou's this big, giant behemoth of a man, and he stands in between the guns and Vic. Or realizes that he can, so that's what he's starting to do.
She doesn't shoot.
Yeah.
But
doesn't
Vic's dad tries to push him out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
And the other cop.
So the one cop is not letting it down. She's going to shoot Vic because that's what's happening. She's going to shoot Vic. She's got a clear shot.
And so Dad pushes her.
Sees it. Yep.
Pushes her out of the way so she can't shoot Vic. And the other cop shoots her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, Vic and Lou,
because of all the commotion, they jump on the bike and they take off. And Lou gets to go through the shorter way to go find Charlie Makes and Wayne.
And so think about this, because the shorter way is actually
her mind.
In her mind.
Yeah.
So
he
Lou
goes into her head.
And comes back out. Yeah. See, I still have trouble grasping. So she goes through the shorter way, and when she's on the other side of the shorter way,
I feel like what's happening more is that her imagination is being brought into reality. Instead of you're thinking he's
going into her head. Yeah. Right. So she's
creating an illusion,
into the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that they get to the other side, and I keep thinking, when I said before, she went through the shorter way, Charlie threw her bike back in, she was stuck there. So she was living on the other side. I know you said that. I just feel like the shorter way is what her mind is. Yeah, so it's just imaginary, and it goes away once she gets to where she needs to be again. Yeah. It just enables her to travel. Yeah,
that's her imaginary place, because everything else is real. Maggie's real.
Okay, and it's like real. And it's an inscape because she can go get to anywhere she needs to by going into it and coming out where she needs to be. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense to me. So it's not like they're in another place, they're just there now.
Yeah.
Because they get
it's kind of like an airplane.
The sleigh house. They get to outside of the sleigh house, and they have a bit of an accident, and the bike falls on them, and it's broke. And
while they're on the bridge,
broke, and and Lou's broke because the bike hit his hand and burned him really badly.
Yeah, so he can't use his hand very
well.
And
she's passed out.
She passed out. Yeah, she passed out because she's already been...
She's fucked up.
She's been thrown through every kind of shitstorm that you can imagine.
Yeah,
so she's not very coherent.
I can't believe she can still go, but my mind, I'm like, this is for my kid. Yeah. I'm going till I'm dead.
That's what's happening.
Yes. So pretty much.
Yeah.
And while she's passed out, he gets some of the explosives ready with the timers. Yeah. And she comes to, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And she ends up... right before they see the Wraith.
They see the Wraith, yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming onto the shorter way bridge, isn't it?
No. It's coming to the road up to the sleigh house.
Okay.
And it's all snowy. And I think he sees her, because he calls to her. He knows she's already there.
Yeah. He calls on the road.
Yeah.
While he's driving, he calls to her.
And so she is going after them and ends up using some they were where did the handcuffs come from? Oh, because the cop had put a cuff on Lou's wrist, remember, before they took off on the bike.
Shit, yeah.
So they get there, and she ends up putting the other end of that cuff around a tree limb so that Lou can't go with her.
Yeah. So he has to stay.
She knows that she's not going to survive this. At least that's what she says. She's pretty sure
basically
she's getting her son back, but she's not going to make it back. And I'm thinking she's going to blow herself up. She's going to do something to blow herself up. She's going to
do everything that she can to try to get her son.
And that's what she does.
The end of the book's good, guys.
And yes, you really have to read it, because we aren't telling you the ending like we never do, because we want you to read it.
So yeah, the ending, it's a good one. It's not, they definitely go in way more depth than what you think is going to happen. What you might be able to guess kind of the what's happening.
You will never believe
what ends up happening.
Where the Wraith ends up going.
Yep.
And the twist at the end.
That's what I'm saying.
That I'm like, no, that can't be happening.
It's good.
And then what happens? Oh gosh, yes. And we're not telling you.
Yeah, there's a couple different
because we like to
the
keep that
ending.
suspense for you.
I feel like that was a good ending. There's many different wrap-ups on the ending, so.
There is. It like ends more than one time.
Yeah.
Because you have to end each character kind of.
Yep.
You have to have a finale for everything that's going on.
Joe Hill does a very good job.
Great job. We've talked about endings before that we have not liked. This ending was amazing.
Tied a little bow on everything made you deal with what had happened.
And it made me go.
Very well.
It made me kind of sad because I knew that it was really over. Mm-hmm. There was no second book. There's no, he's going to be done now, and I can't wait for his next book that we read.
Because you could definitely go into Wayne. Wayne has a power. He talked to Grandma.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But that possibly. But
so
we just know that this ending is fantastic.
There's also a show. I watched the show. It's not, obviously, when you read a book.
Nos4A2 show?
Yeah. There's no really good comparison. Even when you make a movie, there can be a good movie and there can be a good book. But there's really no, unless you make it exactly the same.
You can't put all of this in a movie. You just can't.
And I think there's graphic novels too. There's something called The Wraith. I'm pretty sure the comic.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. And so that gives you a good idea of what Charlie Manx might really look like. He's creep. He's a creep. He's a creeper. He's creepy.
It's kind of Joker-ish.
Oh, it is very Joker-ish, but not in a good way. Not in a good way.
So
that's that.
Think? Devilishly good?
Devilishly good. And so, I want to tell you about things that we love that are local, but we're going to just skip that this week and maybe next week.
Look, we're still on Duck City. Duck City Bistro. Mm-hmm. I'm still all about their food and
that's
their
what I'm
drinks.
saying. So maybe next week we'll bring you our final meal for Duck City and just wrap it up that way when we start our new book. What do you think?
We'll see. Maybe we'll find something else to bring you.
Maybe you should just go to Duck City and try their meal yourself.
We did do 2 Duck Cities, and I feel like 2 is enough. And
I really still want to have some veal.
We can still have some. Yeah, we can. But we may not share it with you.
So the next book, in honor of one of our favorite authors who just recently passed away.
I'm sure you've heard Anne Rice passed away, so we had to read an Anne Rice book.
Vampires. The Interview with the Vampire. Lestat.
We are reading Prince Lestat. We're reading Prince Lestat because we have already read the Vampire Chronicles.
We have already read almost everything that Anne Rice has written. This is one that we both found we haven't read.
Mm-hmm. It's newer.
She does have books that aren't vampire books also.
Yeah,
I don't know if
we
you
did
know.
talk
they
about
have
getting a little risque.
Witches. And they do, she does do some naughty.
Yeah.
A great series of books about Sleeping Beauty.
Oh yeah, that's what it's Sleeping Beauty.
But it's erotica. Mm-hmm. And I recommend it. It was very extreme.
3, so I have not read them because I have 2 of the 3 and that's just
very extreme. But read them. See what you think yourself. But this book, is called Prince Lestat.
I'm just saying, I am very much teetering on reading this book because I have a signed copy, and now that she's not here any longer, it makes me very anxious to open this book.
I don't want to start talking about it because I have a lot of thoughts already. We will get into that next week.
Yay!
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Gosh, sorry it took us so long.
Let's chat an hour with you. Holy shnikes.
Oh,
sorry.
An hour? Yeah.
Sorry. Like I said, we would have done a little more last time, but we ran out of time because your camera. Anyways, Nos4A2, thank you so much. This is a great book to read. I can't wait until we read another and talk about that with you too.
Joe Hill, thank you so much. I can't wait to read the next book that I have of yours, but we're going to put that off a little bit. You guys, Happy New Year.
I hope
we'll see you next
holiday.
year.
See you next year. Adios.